Okay, it's golden. Go, go, go! Okay, so we're gonna start over, guys. Apologies again. Thank you so much for dealing with us and this issue. So let's just pretend like it never happened. So we're gonna go to 6:30. Sorry for the people who are very strict about the 6 o'clock deadline. Eddie and I are willing to stay for another 30 minutes. Hope you are too. Okay, so just remember, my name's Anthony, and I do developer programs. One of the programs happens to be Twitch. Please don't judge me on this one audio issue. I've worked for Leap Motion almost 2 years, and what the joy of my job is dealing with developers, meeting them, greeting them, becoming friends with them. And I happen to be talking to someone who is very much, someone I respect in the sense of a creative and also a developer. So without further ado, here's Eddie Lee. Eddie, say hi.
Hi, I'm Eddie. Hope everyone can hear me now.
So Eddie, you've worked with Leap for a while as well, too. Almost exactly the same time that I think I came along, too. You've made us about 3 applications that are in our Airspace store, or App Store rather.
Yes.
And so tell us about them and what are they?
Sure. Yeah, I made 3 so far for you guys. The first one I made was this thing called Lotus, which is a collection of mini games, kind of mini toys, musical toys that you just kind of play and jam with. That was came bundled with the launch of the Leap Motion. The second one was this thing called Kyoto, which is a kind of an ambient audiovisual puzzle. And the third one is the most recent one, which is called Collider, which is a VR experience where you embody a particle sort of as it voyages through the Large Hadron Collider, and you make music and visuals. Everything we do is kind of very oriented towards audio-visual experiences.
So I guess the question goes, like, where did the inspiration behind Lotus First come from? Like, since that was the first one you built, I played it. It's actually, when I first started, that was one of my favorite games, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just like, there's something about it that was just so easy and yet at the same time so serene to me.
I mean, I take a lot of inspirations from various things, medias that I've consumed. Specifically, this title called Electroplankton, which is a Nintendo DS game. It's sort of the same thing. It's a collection of musical toys that you can interact with. And when I was thinking about like kind of what to make for Leap Motion, back then, motion controls, Leap Motion was completely new. It wasn't released yet. And we wanted to just make a collection of different perspectives into the technology, just showing people how they could use the technology to build something kind of playful and sort of simple. And so, yeah, we kind of pumped out 4 mini toys and packaged them up under the Lotus label. And we work with an audio designer that I really respect called Scientific. It's this guy in Seattle who just makes amazing music, amazing sound design, and yeah.
I think you touched upon like the idea of like creating these multi-levels, but so sound design, so when finding the right like game, a lot of your like at least applications happen to do a lot of audio kind of exploration, and I think that's really interesting because I think that's something you take away from each one. It's like definitely, I remember after being at like an event and hearing the Collider song in my head over and over and over again. Did you? I mean, you didn't write any of it, so it's like you outsourced it. But why do you think that is for you? Like, I don't know.
For me, I grew up on music. I grew up listening to tons of music, playing in bands. I'm a really shitty musician, but I have a deep respect for people who make music and who make it well. And oftentimes, specifically in game development, music kind of takes a backseat in the experience. It's mostly just accompaniment, background music, or just like kind of like sound design, sound effects. But very rarely do games actually put music on the forefront and actually incorporate it fully in the experience. And video games aren't just like game mechanics. It's an entire experience, which is the visuals, the game mechanics, the music and sound, and just how you feel about it. And I feel like music is sort of the emotional like generator when it comes to interactive music. So we just thought that really want to focus on music and just show kind of the power of what music can do in these kind of artistic interactive experiences.
So we go from Lotus to Kyoto, which is just like definitely has like heavily Japanese inspired like kind of like sentiment.
Yes.
Where's this like? So we go from more of a quiet, serene thing. Did you think that that was the next like was that the next logical step for you, or was that just something that just came about?
So Kyoto was it's kind of like a Back to the Future thing where I actually made Kyoto a while ago, and David Holtz, the CTO of your company, wanted he's been playing Kyoto for a while and just talking to me about, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had it working with Leap Motion, like in the game we try to make it like very natural, very audio visual as well. And there's a lot of like plant physics, 2D plant physics that kind of react realistically, and he just thought it'd be a great idea to be able to reach out your hand and kind of play with the grass, play with the trees, with the stars, with the water. And you know what? Like, he was right. And after we ported it, it became like a totally different experience. Rather than playing with your mouse with just like this, this like clickety clack 2D interface, like having it kind of touch kind of feels like it's kind of like meta haptic feedback where
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, in the same sense, Kyoto also utilizes like kind of an interesting non-narrative. It's like you're not even sure what to do. You're experiencing, but yet there's no clear goal or if there's any kind of progression. It took me, I think, a couple of times for this one to really understand. Like I had to grab those balls of light, or like to create these things. And I thought that was so great that you didn't handhold anyone. It was definitely just like kind of experience, kind of figure it out. Very much like a puzzle, like adventure game in like early computer, like 1995, like very Adventure Island kind of stuff.
Yeah, like a lot of it is very, very meta in the sense that like the purpose of why, or the reason why I made Kyoto was it was a while ago when I first moved to Kyoto to work at my previous company, Q Games. And when I first moved there...
so you lived there. Oh, okay. So
I lived in Kyoto, yeah.
Okay, so it was inspired by your trip. Okay, keep going. Sorry, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
so... Oh, no worries. So the story is... yeah, I moved to Kyoto like 2011-ish. And when I first moved there, it was during the springtime. Like springtime in Japan is just so beautiful. And it was just... Moving from LA to Kyoto was just very magical. You had... The sakura was blooming. You had this beautiful weather. You had like these temples with animals frolicking, and this huge river that kind of was like the life force of the city. And I was just kind of consumed in this very mystical, magical awe of just the experience in the city. And I kind of wanted to encapsulate what I felt during that time, which is this sense of wonder, sense of awe. And I expressed myself, with what I know how to do, which is to make games. So it just became kind of Kyoto. And the fact that, I came to the town not knowing anything and just kind of exploring, the cities, random temples and stuff. I kind of want players to kind of feel that vibe, which is just to explore. And it's also partly because I was just lazy. I didn't want to make a tutorial. but it became like afterwards, it just became kind of... It just kind of worked out with the motif, which is like exploration and kind of a very heavy but dreary magical vibe, which is what I was looking for.
So in creating like an experience like Lotus or creating an experience like Kyoto, would you say that it's like the mentality of coming into it and what you're like, how you're feeling at the moment? Are you very much like that kind of like developer where it's just like you're so affected by how you're feeling at that moment?
Yeah, kind of. I feel like I'm very sort of emotionally driven developer, which I find huge inspirations from just how I'm feeling. Like if I'm feeling inspired by anything, like just at any time of the moment, you could just look at something or hear like a specific note in a song and you just can feel so inspired, and you really, it's hard to capture that moment after in retrospect. So you want to kind of, hit it when it's hot. strike when it's hot. And for Kyoto, I was feeling all these things, and I really wanted to really capture that feeling. And I spent a lot of time just like researching, like the plant physics, researching how to do all these like graphic effects, and it kind of became, yeah, it just kind of became how I felt when I first moved to that city.
So you said Kyoto was spiritually first, and then Lotus was second. What
Yeah.
were the lessons you took from like first building like Kyoto and brought into Lotus that made it so much easier?
Um. Yeah. Actually, I didn't really think about that. I think a lot of it was just, uh, well, Kyoto is just the sense of wonder from exploration,
Mm-hmm.
and Lotus had kind of the same thing where I try to give it as minimal amount of tutorial text, minimal amount of handholding as possible. And I really relied for Kyoto. Everything's really natural. Like the trees wave to naturally when you move your mouse cursor or you use your hands over the trees, it moves kind of how you expect a tree would. And when you brush your hand under the water, it sort of ripples and stuff naturally, how you expect it to handle naturally. And for Lotus, we try to derive inspiration from natural gestures. Back then when leap motion wasn't around,
Mm-hmm.
no one knew anything about like how to interact with a motion controlled, gesture hardware. And there's no like common language how there is now with like a mouse. You have double click, right click, drag and drop. These are all common languages that have been developed and instilled in us users over like decades. Like mouse has been like over 40, 50 years, right?
Totally.
But back then, a year ago, leap motion wasn't even around. And
And for
sorry.
you as a game developer, so did you see like I mean obviously like Leap feels a need where it's just like, it's like I want people to experience this and get more into it. Was kind of your like thought behind creating these games was just like I don't want to limit anybody, I want them to fully be in it. And so you thought, "Oh, Leap's a natural progression for this."
Yeah, definitely. I think because people want to interact with their computer in a very natural way. They want to kind of express themselves, and part of the reason or what drove me is like you have all these musical toys. They're kind of like little instruments, very simple
Mhm.
instruments, and just being able to express itself with music is a very powerful feeling. And with the controller like Leap Motion, which is very natural, right? Just it's like the definition of natural, just using your hands and gestures. Allowing them to use these gestures to create music, to create visuals, was something that really drove me. And we just made four little experiments to see what stuck, and we pulled inspiration from very natural behaviors such as like swiping, like
Mhm.
twirling and stuff. These are all things that people are very used to doing, and we just injected these very simple mechanics into Lotus.
So when you say we, obviously your company is Funktronic Labs. So
Yes.
how many people are at Funktronic?
So Funktronic was founded by me and another person named Kaylin. Um, Two full time, but we also have people that we work with, contractors, friends. Our current game that we're working with, Nova 111, we have six people now.
6 people? Wow.
But yeah, so Lotus, it was just Kyoto was just me. It was me and my friend Jack Manhorn, which is the musician. For Lotus, it was me and the sound designer, Scientific. Scientific is my sound designer friend from Seattle.
Hmm.
Amazing sound designer, and really wanted to work with him for a while. Collider was me, Kaylit, and Bion. And Bion's a DJ from Kyoto, and we worked with him before at our previous company. He's really good, so it was kind of the perfect fit.
So we haven't talked about Collider yet, so I guess this is a good segue.
Okay.
So Collider has kind of an interesting, like, definitely take, I would say, a step away from what you would normally build.
Uh,
It, plus in hand model also in like just like because I mean I think it was I'm trying to think like I don't even think you had a hand model for Kyoto, right? It was just a ball. It was just like kind of like a circle and like kind of
yeah.
interaction zone. So
Yes.
Collider has a full hand model, and I know Lotus does too on certain levels.
Yes.
But this is like a wacky game. It's really good. Like I really like that game a lot actually, but I'm not
Thanks.
even sure why. Because there's something about it that's just like very intuitive, like the pulls and grabs and like kind of just like the orbs, and just even when you clap your hands and create this like nexus of just like black and white. I really enjoy like each like level iteration of it too.
Oh, thanks.
But
Thank you.
I have to ask, like, where did that come from? Like, all of it. It's such a interesting, like the circle, like everything.
Well, we let's see, like, well, a lot of the visual inspirations were from images of the Large Hadron Collider, and I think the images of the Large Hadron Collider surfaced around 2008, long time ago, and I just remember like the feeling of like, wow, this is the most badass thing I've ever seen in my life, and you know, the fact that something that was built for science and for scientific discovery was also so beautiful and elegant was really struck a chord in me. And when we, you know, when we were approached by you guys to develop, you know, this Leap Motion VR experience, we found that when we were doing research, we found that the best experiences were the ones that kind of like the player was voyaging just kind of cruising through something like a tunnel, like underwater in space, just through just like this environment when you see things passing by. And when we decided to kind of go towards that, like you're just cruising through a tunnel, well, we just like instantly just thought of like Large Hadron Collider. And then we just like, well, like just making like a Large Hadron Collider is kind of like, it's cool, but we wanted to get psychedelic, you know? We wanted to make it like a DMT experience, like you're just tripping out hard.
DMT experience.
with with VR, with Oculus Rift, it's so immersive, and you have such a high sense of presence that we felt like we wanted to make people feel like they're tripping, but without, you know, within the safety of not having to do any drugs.
And I know you said to me this at Indiecade last year, was that you happened to put like Collider on people, and people like reacted so viscerally, where they were like crying. It was so beautiful for them. And that to me has always stuck with me, just in the sense of just like, that's amazing that someone could have such a unique expression to just like something that you built or something that somebody built, you know? It's just so great.
It's very, it's awesome. Like the fact that you could build something that has such a emotional impact on someone is just like, even just one person is just so rewarding. The fact that you could move someone to the point of tears is very beautiful. But when we first built it, you know, we built it for ourselves. We wanted just to make something crazy cool and just out there, but also not like cool, but not too weird. And yeah, when we were building it, like it was pretty cool because you guys let us have kind of full creative freedom to just build whatever we want, and we just went, you know, what we wanted to see, what we saw in our heads. And we're just happy that people liked it. You know, the fact that someone actually liked what we made it's really awesome. You know.
Well, and also with that, like kind of like going on the same like idea of like what you learned from like Lotus. Where did you come up with the game controls and like the whole like atmosphere of it? Like where did that all come from?
The visual atmosphere came from, there was this one image that popped up a while ago in the Large Hadron Collider where it wasn't pictures of Large Hadron Collider, but it was like pictures of people on a computer, kind of debugging like some kind of bug that was going on in the accelerator, and it was very like low poly, kind of very colorful. And we're just like, holy shit, like, because we were thinking of like how to do an abstract version of the Large Hadron Collider, and we were doing research, and we saw this image it's like this beautiful image of like the Large Hadron Collider, but like these psychedelic colors. It's like, wow, this is really cool. So we we decided to just go towards that direction. It really inspired us.
And there's like, I mean, there's no finish to it. I mean, obviously Collider keeps going, but
Yeah.
there is a point where you reach something what I think believe is called the God particle, and like there's like a thought behind it, like almost like a universe. So for those who aren't physicists, or the God particle happens is it's something where you create enough energy to create like a universe, and I thought that was a really like interesting like Easter egg, like like because for a game that doesn't necessarily have a goal, it definitely is like cool that you get to see this entity, this giant eye.
Yeah.
Also something that runs along with like what you've built before. I feel like the giant eye and like kind of that Illuminati thing. The imagery you use on all three are very indicative to like kind of pastels, very bright colors. Is there like definitely like certain imagery you draw from or something that inspires you when you are developing a game?
Yeah, like things like the all-seeing eye. We had it in Lotus as well. There's something about just seeing an eye that triggers a lot of things in your brain, specifically like the fact that someone is watching you. And just the visual imagery is it's very mystical, and it's also very powerful image. Just like it's a simple like oval circle, and then boom, you put it anywhere, and then it's like a very visceral, deep feeling of like, holy shit, something weird is going on here. And it could just be a sticker on the wall, and if you see it, it just looks it's very enticing. And then specifically for Collider, they're searching for the God particle. I'm not a physicist or anything, but it has something to do with the Higgs boson particle.
Yeah.
And we just thought, like, wouldn't it be cool? Like, it's nothing like real or anything. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like you found the God particle, right? And then the God particle, all-seeing eye. All-seeing eye is kind of like God in the imagery. We just thought, okay, wouldn't it be cool to put it in? And then when people actually saw it in VR, they were just like, holy shit, And we just thought that was so cool.
You made two things. I would love to hear about artists that you draw from, but also like Collider happens to be a VR like game, but it also happens to be like a peripheral game. Was that a conscious choice, or was that something that you just thought to do?
What do you mean by peripheral game? You mean like VR?
Yeah, like so it's like a VR game comparative to a peripheral game, like the Kyoto or Lotus, sorry, Kyoto and Lotus.
Let's see, like.
Was that the next step for you? Did you just think VR was just like something where you needed to be more engrossed with like Collider?
Well, like more specifically, it was the fact that you guys were going towards V2. Remember the skeletal tracking, and also VR. That
push that, got it.
Yeah, like you guys really wanted to push it, and then it also worked out for us because we wanted to go VR as well, and it kind of just because VR is just so powerful. I don't think it definitely like Collider would not have done as well if it was not in VR, specifically because the art style is very abstract, it's very niche. Because of the abstract nature, psychedelic usually, like, it's awesome, but realistically, a lot of people are kind of turned off by it because it's so abstract and kind of weird, right? Mm-hmm. And usually, you see these things on like a 2D monitor or images or whatever, drawings. A lot of people like it, but most of the people out there, they kind of turned away from this very abstract art style. But the fact that... Sorry.
No, go ahead. You keep going.
The fact that it's in VR, that you can see this psychedelic art style in VR, all of a sudden, you could interact with it. You can see it in 3D. Everything's like, stereoscopic perspective. Mm-hmm. It just seems so real, and it made the art style kind of legitimize it by making it so real. And I guess the true power of VR is that it could really allow for any art style, like art styles that traditionally have been kind of niche or just too weird or too abstract. In VR, it feels real. And it's awesome because I think from an artistic point of view, it really opens up a lot of doors in terms of meaningful artistic experiences. And that's what I think is really awesome about virtual reality.
So we have a question from the chat.
Okay. right now we've been experimenting with some stuff. Nothing, been brainstorming. Nothing in the works right now, as in bringing to full production.
Well, what was Nova 111 or 111?
So Nova 111 is a product that we're working on. It's completely like different.
Oh, okay.
We've been talking about like Lotus and Collider, and they're all kind of like weird, abstract, interactive forms of audiovisual art or whatever.
Sure.
Kind of hippie shit, neo hippie shit. But then
neo hippie shit.
but Nova is just a kind of a old school arcade 2D console game that we've been making. It's a game that we've been working on for quite a while. We're going to ship it in a few months, hopefully this summer, on all console platforms: PlayStation, Microsoft, Wii U, Steam, and it's just it's just a fun game. And we, oftentimes, we see a lot of studios kind of pigeonhole themselves into like one specific experience or one specific type of game or whatever. We find a lot of value is just diversifying, just having quality content, not just having a specific aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So Nova will be out soon, and hopefully after that we can do some more VR stuff.
So with that, like, what we talked about it before. What artist or where are you drawing like a lot of your inspiration from, like kind of visual style, like? Because you were talking about psychedelic hippies. Is that where your visual style lies, or are you just like, is there a certain place? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I like psychedelic just because it's so colorful and interesting, and my background's in mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
So math and fractals go kind of hand to hand, and and fractals and psychedelic kind of go hand to hand as well. So kind of it all came together. But in terms of artists, there's a lot of really amazing artists. Off the top of my head, I'm kind of having a brain fart. But like old school ones like Roger Dean,
mm-hmm.
Escher.
Escher's good, MC Escher.
Escher's, yeah, and just like even contemporary like Killian Ng. I don't know if you saw him. I remember you guys had a book of his stuff like on your counter on the waiting area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, I told David Holtz about that guy, and he bought the book like the next day.
I wonder if it's like, well, with you, it's like, having a background in mathematics. Do you think that was important for you to like, kind of have a unique perspective on like everything, or what do you think? Being also like someone who's very analytical but also very artistic.
Well, for me specifically, my college degree is in mathematics. When I was a kid, I did a lot of art. My parents forced me to go to all these art classes, life drawings, stuff like that. And in grad school, I went towards like kind of computer science, and kind of all these three things like math, computer science, and art kind of converges in graphics programming. And it just became something. It's like probably the only thing that I am okay at.
The only thing you're okay at. Yikes.
Well, the thing is, like I've always wanted to express myself artistically.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, I'm kind of like a emotional dude, and a lot of these people who are emotional like to express themselves. I think people in general have the urge to express themselves in whatever format they desire, but. It was always frustrating for me as a kid because I was so into art. Just love looking at art, love reading about artists, but
mm-hmm.
my hand-eye coordination, when I have a pen and when it hits the paper, all it does is just like looks like chicken scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how much I practiced. It always looks kind of crappy, and it was always so frustrating because I have all these ideas that I want to share, but it's kind of like I was just kind of locked in like this. I was like very bound by these like hand-eye coordination, physiological properties. But
well, when
I
you...
found...
Oh, sorry. I think you're gonna answer my question. Like, how did you find how did you find like what you were doing now? Like, where did that come from?
So during like I guess a few years ago, I started getting into just like computer graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like my math background, you learn a lot of algorithms. You learn like how to generate all these like 3D shapes, linear algebra, and you know, like before when I used to learn art, you know, you learned a lot about composition, color theory, all these kind of things. And when I started just doing graphics programming, you know, I just started to just spam random like visualizers that before I didn't even know there's a whole community of it. And I just made little music videos, little animations, like real time procedure generated animations. And after like a few of them, I just found like, wow, this is like something I could really use to express myself. And for me, you know, the true power of just technology is it really opens up a lot of opportunities, like people like me who want to express themselves but can't really do it in like the physical world. For example, another example would be, sorry, that's kind of off tangent, like musicians, for example. Like if you really want to be a really proficient musician before the digital age, you know, you really had to devote 10, 20 years, whatever, perfecting, mastering how to play guitar, how to play piano. It's a very, very long process, but not everyone has the time. And nowadays, like everyone wants to express themselves, and a lot of people do want to express themselves musically. And with tools like, you know, Ableton sequencers, you know, drum sequencers, you know, arpeggiators, people can make wonderful, beautiful music without having to perfect an instrument or even learn music theory. Like, for example, the musician on Collider, Bion, he doesn't know anything about like chord progressions or music theory or anything about that. But he's also able to express himself very, very well with like these digital tools, and he's able to build an entire career out of just using these tools to make music. And it's just, you know, the fact that technology has opened up his life. It's sort of how like me, like technology also has opened up my life and allowing me to express themselves in a way that was, if it was not for computers or programming, would be completely impossible.
So I guess it's just like, since we've been talking a lot about your games, should we pretend, for the audience sake, take a look at some of them?
Okay, yeah. Should I do some screen shares?
Just some screen shares, just so people kind of have like an idea of like what we're talking about.
Okay. Okay, hold on a sec.
No problem.
Let me pop up this.
Too bad I don't have a guitar like you, so I can't
cool.
play my guitar.
Can you see?
Yep.
Oh, Jesus, laggy.
Skype is a little bit laggy, so just we'll have to deal with it as it goes.
Okay, so you see the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see my fingers, and so this is the very, very first scene. When you open up Lotus, you see this. And back then, when I was designing Lotus, I was trying to think of, well, I can assume that the player probably has never ever used a motion device before.
Mm-hmm.
They have never tried a leap motion. They probably have no idea how to use a motion controlled hardware. So I try to make it as simple as possible. You know, you have this guy kind of following your eye or following your hand with the eye. You try to make it like, you know, a minimal entry point into the software. So like here, eventually they figure out that if you kind of poke at his eyes and leave this ball in the eye, it launches the app. You can't really hear the music, but it's really nice.
We can hear the plane though that's flying above. Dude.
Let's see.
So okay, so we're in. And then in the levels, 4 musical experiments, and they're all equally amazing.
Thanks. And so another thing, like, so when you get here, you know, we're trying to think of how would they choose these 4 scenes?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of people, they don't know anything about how to use a motion control device. But a lot of people, they know how to point, right? Like, for example, when you're going to McDonald's or whatever, and you want to order the number 1 combo, number 2 combo, you do like 2, like with your fingers, like peace sign, or 3 for number 3 combo. So we thought, okay, so you have 4, why don't we just make it natural? Instead of developing something like skeuomorphic, like you have your finger and you push a button, you know, that's really boring, and that's not really what motion control is really about. Why don't you make it like you actually can read your hands and, you know, you show 2 fingers now, or 1 finger, and now it loads the first scene. So we're loading the first scene, and this is one of the first music toys that we have. And it's a very like you just kind of jam out. You have like a left hand, you have the right hand, you have these little voxel boxes that follow your hands around, and you close it. You close it. You can close your hands to kind of make this other sound with all these other musical filters, some DSP filters, and you just kind of jam out to it. It's very like it's supposed to be so easy that anyone could just like pop in their hand and just like figure it out, right? It's nothing complicated or mechanically deep about this experience. It's just simple and natural.
Well, let's talk about like right here, for example, that head. Where did that come from, and like
Oh.
where did like how did you decide like to do kind of like a weird like block head and like what are this imagery? Walk us through the imagery.
Okay, so I wanted this is very meta, right? I wanted to make it seem like people are kind of bowing down with two hands. Like, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Like doing this to like an idol.
Oh,
like,
I see.
Like a lot of
Okay.
people when they go to these temples or churches, synagogues or whatever, they see like a religious figure and they do this, right? And this is just me thinking about like, well, a lot of people worship technology, and this is kind of a way that people can interact with it. And it's like, okay, why don't I make it very like kind of a techno idol? So what I did was I just grabbed a random face from the internet, like a 3D model. I kind of voxelized it, and then yeah, just applied all these like layers behind his head, and then just make it so like because in this thing you kind of like do this, kind of like you're kind of praising this head, and it just happens to be like when a lot of people try this, they actually do this, and it's kind of cool.
No, really cool. Like I've always wondered. So this is good. I'm getting my answers too.
Then you have like two. Oh, this is gonna be very slow on Skype. But this is another like kind of a psychedelic fractal thing, and we try to make it. We try to draw inspiration from very natural gestures. So this one, all you have to do is just grab and throw, grab and throw.
And
you
like,
just
and this is just like because you were thinking like, oh, this is people's first like idea of what is motion control, which makes sense.
It's just like, well, you can't go very complicated or very deep. You just have to just really pull from natural behavior. So, well, the most natural thing is to grab and to throw, right? That's like one of the first things you learn as a human. So that's what we did, grab and throw. And then for the art style, we chose fractals because we like fractals. Plus, David Holtz keeps telling us to make something with fractals, so we did.
And it's like part of also your math, as you were talking about before, like something that you can incorporate too, like the idea of fractals.
Yeah, the beauty of fractals is that it's infinite.
It's interesting that because we happen to have a lot of math guys here, so it's just like interesting to see like how they like very much view the world in a different way. Especially, I wonder if like this head thing is also really good. Okay, inspiration behind this. Sorry, I was going on a thought, but I think I'm just gonna stop for this.
Oh, it's cool. It's just
because the lines, the cheeks, the everything, so good, so good.
Well, we try to make it like a silly. The previous two was like very like heavy. Like you have the idol, you have this like deep fractal kind of visual, and then it's like, why don't we just kind of throw a curveball? Let's make it kind of cute. And for this one, we took inspiration from this game called Rhythm Heaven.
Okay.
Which is another like Nintendo DS title, and they have like these really cute characters that kind of sing, and we wanted to make it seem like you're like kind of messing about with the orchestra. So we have these 4 singers. Each of them has a different note in the chord. I think it's like a C major 7th or something. And basically, if you spin the head, the faster you spin, the I guess the higher it sings. And if you spin it very fast, he pitch shifts his register to a higher octave, and then this little thing on the head pop up that you can interact with. We just try to make it like a little toy, so you can spin these little things around, generate sounds. Obviously, you guys can't hear me, but you can use a lot of fingers too.
And all these are available on our app store, and they're free. So if you guys are interested, just go to Leap Motion App Store. You can find it on the web, and you can hear all these games. And all you need is a peripheral. You don't need necessarily a VR headset. The shirt design, your choice. Stripes, no stripes, red, teal.
It's random. It's just
Yeah, I'm
random.
just
There's
kidding.
no thought behind that.
Somebody looked at your closet and was like, let's see which shirts to put. These people.
Eh,
This
and,
one's the best. I love this.
oh, thanks. Yeah, we try to make it like more serene. So the previous two is kind of heavy, third one's silly, and the fourth one we try to make it serene. Just trying to make it, different perspectives in this experience. And
So where does this, it's supposed to be ribbon, right?
yes,
Yeah,
ribbons.
okay. So where did this idea of like ribbon and like everything, like where did this come from?
This ribbons came from me playing Journey. I don't know if you
Oh,
played.
okay. Yeah. Totally.
So right after I played
That's
it,
awesome.
I guess a few months after I played it is when we started developing Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just really liked their ribbon tech and always wanted to get into it, and so I just developed my own. And so like each finger kind of corresponds to one of the ribbons. So if you hold just one finger out, you connect with one of the ribbons, and it's very natural, right? You just embody, your fingers embody one of the ribbons, and you could rotate, you could kind of throw,
Mm-hmm.
and we just try to make it like super simple. There's no way to mess up. Zero fail state in all four music toys.
And is that important, do you think, with the game design and like what you were trying to do is like a kind of a zero fail?
Yeah, it's like we have no, there's no really deep game mechanics. It's all very simple and natural. We just kind of focus on, like I said, natural behaviors, very audio-visually rich, and yeah, just encouraging people to explore. You have this new technology, which is lead motion gesture control hardware, and people want to mess around with it. And if you keep telling them like you're wrong, like people are gonna get annoyed and just get turned off. So we just made it totally open. It's just a toy, no fail solution, just pure play.
And so then this is the four that you did. So I would love to see. Let's check out Kyoto.
Okay.
And there's the logo for your company.
Yeah, Funktronic Labs. So Kyoto. So you see my hand. You can see both of me, right? Or
Yeah, we can see both.
and we try to make it very natural. You could. You probably can't see it very well, but I could brush the water.
No, you can see it. You can see it. The drop shadow is really good. Of just like, I don't know if you saw Matt Teitel was talking about how like a lot of your water effect is what made him build his like flower thing for a new orientation.
Oh wow, yeah. It's for me, I just try to focus a lot on just making it as natural as possible. And after I got the tech working for the flora and the water and everything, then I just started to design it visually. It kind of started off as a tech demo, and then became like I got like really into it and just like started adding a little progression. And yeah, so right here you could so everything's very natural. Like it. Yeah, the power of like leap motion, it just really feels like you're. If you make something that's natural, it really feels like there's some kind of haptic feedback, like a meta haptic feedback, like what I was talking about earlier.
We get that so much with people in the wild, just like, whoa, it's like I'm touching something, but I'm not, and this is like mind-blowing to me. And it's always nice to hear, because it's just like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create this more immersive environment, so it's always good. So this is, I must admit, I got stuck here, because I was like, what do I do? And I was touching the tree, and I was touching the water, and I was touching the grass. And so what you're supposed to do is grab that little comet,
Yeah.
and then you bring him over to the moon.
The moon.
And the moon happens to have three little, yep, there it is. And I love that. I just love that. I didn't know. Like it, I love games where it's like you have to kind of think it out. Like you're like, okay, so it's not what I think it is, and I have to interact with something. But what is it,
Yeah, we try to. I don't know, like we try to make it like it's pretty simple scene. There's not a lot of things going on. There's a tree. There's the moon. There's these stars. So you only have like, for a beginner, when you design a puzzle, you try to make it feel like they discover something, but the fact that you kind of led them onto it,
Totally. And I think that's really important with like when you're building games. So. Is this one because this is probably the only one that would be considered a puzzle that I've seen from you. Is that something that you want to do in the future, kind of? Like
Yeah,
building up puzzles.
I like puzzles. It's I think just the mystery of solving puzzles is very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just so we try to focus on it's
I love it.
kind of bugging out right now.
No, it's cool. It looks
Uh,
good.
yeah, we try to make it like with these like very mystical vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Mystical vibes.
mystical
best,
vibes.
best hashtag. Like, hashtag mystical vibes.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of like for mystical vibes,
Uh-huh.
puzzle gameplay fits it really well because puzzles, a sense of mystery, trying to figure out what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
what to do, what's next. It just fits the aesthetic fits the mechanics well. So it just happened to be that, you know, Kyoto is a puzzle game.
And then also like the added fact that you were in Kyoto at one point and building it out and like these kind of like magicalness of it of being abroad and like dealing with a different culture is like really interesting to me. Just like that's great. That makes me really excited for like what how like game design is so personal. People
Yeah, that's the
people.
beauty of like small independent studios. It's just very personal. Like, you could take risks. Like if we had, if I had a big studio, definitely probably wouldn't have made this kind of product. But for me, this is like for free. I made it. It was sort of a, what do you call it? A love of work of
A
love,
labor of love.
labor of love,
Hmm.
and I just wanted to just make something to express how I felt and just trying to get it out there as many people as possible. And hopefully, if you ever visit Kyoto, or even if you don't, this app can give you a sense of what it's like to visit there. That sense of beauty and mystery and mystical vibes. Hashtag.
Hashtag trademark mystical vibes. Okay, so then let's try a collider really quick, and then let's. I'm gonna love to talk more about like what you're building too.
Okay. Okay.
I love collider. So the music in collider, guys, since you guys can't hear it, is haunting. There's something about it that's just like it sticks with you. It really does, and it's just like the beats and the whistles and like kind of just like the effect of it and the clapping. Everything is very much like very distinct sounds.
Yeah, we try to make it like okay. So when we're discussing with the audio designer Bayon,
Mm-hmm.
I told them just like basically, this is what you feel like. So you're traveling through space and time, but you don't care because you just feel so sexy. we told him that, and he's just like got it, and then he just like made the music, and then
I love that. I love that. You're trying. Okay, so you're traveling through space and time, and you're sexy.
you just feel so sexy. You don't care. You just that's the tagline I think on the Leap store, and I'm glad you guys let me use that.
I didn't even know that you used that, but I love that. And so with this, it's so you're not using the Rift, but you can, and that's totally a VR iteration of this game.
Yeah.
And right here, it's like you're picking up speed and you're creating this thing that can also like so the clap. The clap is the best. Oh, I just love it. And right now, the music changes, the environment changes, and everything that around you is just like so good, so good. So
Yeah.
and so the funny thing is about when people collect those particles, I always tell them to clap too,
Oh, really?
to create more of an immersive environment. It's just like because I think that's more better that they have like more control. You know what I mean? Like in this game, you're complete control because it's just like free range of like 3D design. I just love it.
And so
And then
now it gets kind of crazy now with the eye.
God.
So I was talking about earlier the all-seeing eye, the God particle.
And these beautiful colors, this beautiful colors and explosion. It's just great.
Yeah, the colors was quite interesting. Like we had to develop like a generative way to develop color, like generative color theory.
Just like so nothing oversteps anything else.
Like in color theory, you always want to balance.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know familiar with color theory, but you know you have your color
Very.
wheel.
But just in case like anyone else isn't, please explain.
You have like the color wheel, right?
Mhm.
And usually you want things to be like well balanced within your composition of your scene,
Mhm.
and well balanced as in like you know the colors have to balance the composition, the luminosity, the saturation and stuff. And we had to develop a way to, you know, because we have all these colors going on, and we don't want to like handpick every color for every vertice. So we developed a way to be able to generate, you know, this like color wheel, and then to procedurally choose what colors in the color wheel and like what saturation brightness we want to use in the scene. So it just happened, you know, we tweaked it a lot to be able to see what it is, to have what it is now.
So, with that and like looking at Collider, is there anything you can share with us about Nova 111?
Sure. I guess I could show you.
I mean,
It's kind of like
so in case people don't realize, it's code. It's not. It's real. He's doing it right now.
it's kind of let's see.
Okay.
So okay, I'll just talk about it. So
Yeah, go ahead.
in the game, you know, you embody the spaceship right here, and it's funny because we show you all this like crazy
Yeah.
psychedelic, and then we like kind of like let's go back to like old school 2D arcade. But yeah, you're a ship, and basically all your scientist friends, because of like some you know very very cheesy sci-fi story of like a horrible experiment gone wrong, and all your friends get like you know sucked into the rift, and then dispersed throughout the universe, and you just have to save them. That's
Okay.
basically what you have to do. And you have this ship, and you know it's a turn-based game, so you move in turns. It's kind of like chess. You move a turn, the world moves a turn. So the world doesn't move until you move. And actually, let me skip to. So you have like.
So when you say turn-based, is there enemies against you, or
Yeah.
is
So
it-
so
okay.
right here on the right side, you know, you have this guy called the Chomper, and you know if you move, he moves. So it's turn-based. I can stop,
Oh.
and it's like chess, right? I move, and then the enemy moves, and then you could hit him, and then you know you go through and you save your friends.
Whoa.
But the thing is, like, so this is like the very beginning of the game. In the future, you discover that something's not right with the world. You thought the world was all turn-based. You thought you were playing in a turn-based environment, but in reality, things are getting weird and things are happening in real time.
Yeah.
So, for example, like the previous scene, you know, you had the enemies moving in turn-based, and now I jump to a new level where I'm going to show some real-time stuff. So, you see the spike, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you stand under it, it kind of you proc it and it falls in real time. So
And-
now it's
And like when you say real time and like what you're building, this design is so beautiful. It's so cool.
oh, thanks. See, like everything moves in real time,
Whoa.
and now it's like a weird thing. Like, well, I thought it was a turn-based game, and then now there's real-time stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so now maybe you could like, for example, I see this guy, and then I could back out, and now I could use the fact that it's real time
Wow.
to also, you know, to also defeat the enemy. So we designed it in such a way that all like hazards to enemies are of course a threat to you,
Mm-hmm.
but also a threat to each other. So if you could manipulate the real time and turn based environment. So here again, you know, I planned it so, you know, the spike is right on top of one of the enemies, so it just falls right on top. And you know, later it gets crazy. You start getting upgrades for your ship. You have like lasers. You have things that you could use. Actually, I could just show you.
Sneak peek, guys. Sneak peek.
Sneak peek. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is not the final version either, too, right? So it could
Yeah.
change.
So we have like this, but then we can like, for example, let me jump back to the real time. So we have you know lasers and stuff that you could use to fire around. Let's go here, and then for example here, I have this ability like I can stop time. So I stop time and I can push this guy over here, such that after time stop restarts,
Boom.
boom, yeah, you can kill him. So
Whoa. So it's
it's-
like total puzzle game at the same
it's
time.
a total puzzle game. Yeah. Oops.
Interesting. How many?
So right here,
How long? How
Stop
big is
time.
this game gonna be?
um.
No idea.
This game, well, we're finishing it up right now. We have all the
Okay.
levels done. We have about 45 levels,
45. Wow.
about 5 hours of gameplay. It's going to be on all the consoles. So if you guys are looking to find it. It's going to be on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Vita, Wii U, Xbox One, Steam, which is PC, Mac, Linux, and then all these other ones that we're going to push to after. And yeah, so the game is just totally nuts. And then here's a sneak peek at the new world. So here you have like the lab.
Okay.
Where you start going to like this alternate universe where like science is, like the origin of the science experiment gone wrong has happened.
Okay.
And it's just like things you gotta like do, and just like time is acting really weird in some, messed up way, and just figure out how to navigate through that and to save all your friends. That's basically the goal.
That's so cool. I love the design and like the thought, and it still has kind of like the same color palette that the other games that you've been building as well.
Yeah.
So, but we're almost hitting the hour.
Okay.
But questions. Let's see. I don't think we have any questions from out there. Just a lot of interaction, a lot of talk.
Okay.
Which is always good.
Not following. I haven't really been following the thing.
No, it's okay. I'm following it over here and I'm reading. Just a lot of like conversation, it seems.
Okay.
So for you, like, I would love to like hear what kind of games that you're excited about and what you're playing, and then like also, where do you see the independent games like environment going, and like what's going on?
Oh, I'm playing tons of games right now. There's a lot of good stuff happening in the independent game development industry, and also the AAA industry. Dark Souls 2. They had a new one that just came out, Scholars of the Sins. Or probably pronouncing it wrong, but amazing game, so brutal. It really feels like old school, like difficulty, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about, like games that really inspired me. Like Journey, for example, is beautiful. Shadow of the Colossus was another amazing one that I loved.
My favorite game.
Oh, really?
I love that game.
Yeah. Why do you like it?
Because it's just like the open world atmosphere of just like trying to you don't have a clear mission.
Yeah.
And discovering the Colossus and each one with their unique puzzle system. There's something about that game and the music is actually really good in that too. It's just like that was the most like excited I got about playing like a game like in a really long time. I think PlayStation 2, right? Correct. Yeah. That was the last PlayStation 2 game I probably got excited about.
For me, like I totally dig it. Like the open world, the fact that you just get on a horse and they don't tell you where to go, right? You can just go anywhere you want. But for me, like the reason why it really struck me is it's the first time that I played a game. That game came out a long time ago. I guess when I was still like a teenager.
Yeah.
And when I played the game, like it's the first time, you play a lot of games. It's all like really fun and visceral. You're shooting things, killing enemies, and there's like really obvious enemies, like you're killing Nazis, you're killing like evil Russians or whatever. But in Shadow of the Colossus, you are the bad guy. And these sleeping giants are the good people they're just chilling, and you're like this guy who's like has a selfish motivation to save his girlfriend or whatever, the girl. And you go and you like rock up and you're just like killing these like peaceful giants. And it's the first time I felt like, wow, like I feel like a dick, and this is such an interesting emotion. Like I didn't know games could be this powerful, and that was the first game that really I was like, wow, like games can be different,
Mm-hmm.
And then became like Journey, which is like another thing. It's like, wow, it's obviously a work of art.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just beautiful games.
And it's just like. So with that and like the excitement that you're feeling about games and stuff like that, do you think the independent game with like Steam like have like a VR headset, like where do you see like games going? Is it all VR, or do you think that there will still be like consoles and things like that?
Well, independent games is just it's beautiful in that I guess the difference between AAA and independent is the freedom of expression. And what I mean by that is AAA has bigger budgets. Nothing wrong with that. They have bigger budgets, bigger demographic to please. And because they have bigger budgets, more investors, more mouths to feed, more developers. Bungie costs $500 million to make with over 500 people internally. And you can't just make like a random like independent, like random idea because it's so risky and so many people's lives are on stake. And you got to make a game that's like obviously that would appeal to a lot of people, like a MMO, third person, first person shooter, which traditionally has done very well within the 18 to 35 male demographic, which is a very monetizable demographic. But then with the independent scene, like for me, with Funktronic Labs, Nova is only like 5-6 people. And we could make like this weird, small, like turn-based real-time game. And we could take higher risk because all we need to be able to do is to feed us 5 people. We don't have to worry about like paying back like the $500 million that, Bungie owes to EA or whatever. We could take risks and we could make something that it's different. There's nothing wrong with AAA at all. It's just a totally different aesthetic, and I think that will probably carry on to VR. But it's also kind of weird because there's no consumer model of VR now. It's kind of like a
it's true. That's very true. I mean, like it's so new. Like I think we're seeing like kind of the early iteration, but I don't feel like big studios have ever have even attempted it yet. I think it's for the devs to explore, like the young independent indie devs.
Yeah, definitely true. Like like I said earlier, the fact that VR is so amazing and has such a high presence, it's just so powerful. But the problem is people have not figured out what the best, like when mobile devices came out, when it first came out, it was all a bunch of like dicky apps, like pour beer or like press this button to like, fire. And that people made like millions off of that. And now obviously you can't release something like that and expect to make any money, but then that time, during that period of time, people were just trying to figure out like what mobile's about, what kind of experiences people are looking for, what kind of experiences are possible. And I think VR is kind of like that period where like people are trying to figure out like what VR is. A lot of people are unfortunately just porting their 3D game into VR and assuming it works, but oftentimes you get kind of sick because it doesn't really abide by a lot of the VR principles. But then I feel like if you, as a developer, if you approach VR like Nintendo approaches game development, and what I mean by that is when Nintendo makes games for like Wii, right? They developed the nunchuck, and then they made games that are perfect for the nunchuck that only can exist within the ecosystem of the nunchuck peripheral, in that it's like there's no other way. They're just like nunchuck and the Wii U games, Wii U Sports or whatever. It's perfect for each other. If you take that to VR, instead of just porting games to like the VR, just think of like how Nintendo would do it. What would Miyamoto do? WWMD.
Another popularized hashtag.
Yeah.
In case anyone out there is like tweeting at us. Well, so thanks, Eddie. I think we've hit our time. So I guess it's like, where can people find you? Like, where are you hanging out?
I'm hanging out on Twitter.
What coffee shop?
I'm hanging out in Pasadena, California. If you want to just come, I go to all the coffee shops. That's in Meat Space, in Digital Space.
Oh, it is.
At Eddie Tree.
Eddie Tree. I think we listed it in our tweet out, but yeah, you can find Eddie here.
At Eddie Tree. The website, funktroniclabs.com. Yeah, just
Oh, actually, Eddie, I forgot to ask one question.
Yo.
Your Google experiment, your shader.
Yeah.
So I happen to follow him on Twitter. For everybody out there, and I found this randomly, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, and this is another thing where it's like the fact that you do such great stuff in a lot of ways.
Oh, thank you. You make me blush.
Oh.
This one is. I was just trying to learn WebGL. I use this framework called 3JS by Mr. Doob. And the beauty of the web is you can just send them a link. You don't have to make them download anything, and they just show it. And the web's powerful now, and like everything has a GPU. Mobiles have a GPU. Obviously, all computers kind of have some kind of GPU. And I don't know. I feel like VR, the web, it's a lot of stuff happening in the future that I think it's all going to be intermingled together.
And it's just like this beautiful like like experiment, and you guys should check it out. And Eddie Tree, GitHub.io.
Yeah.
And so thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, super sorry about the audio issues in the beginning, but I think we figured it out and did pretty well. So next week, you guys come back and check us out. We're going to be talking to the makers of Blue Estate. They have created a 6-hour game. They've upgraded their kind of for our app store. And that'll be Tuesday, 5 Pacific Standard Time. Please tune in, and this, we promise, next time, no audio issues. And Eddie, thanks again. This is great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. This has been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you.